Manouse talked about President Trump's first year of his second term in an interview with Vanity Fair. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also examine Australia's social media ban and if it could work right here in the U.S. Psychologist Dr. Kelly Cosgrove will join us to explain.
Anna Frank Billingsley plus Moody Gardens' Jared Schaller brings us up to date on their Holiday in the Gardens Festival and what's new and exciting this year.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Prosecutors in Los Angeles say they're charging the son of slain Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle with murder. Steve Futterman reports Nick Reiner is scheduled to appear in court at this hour.
We expected Nick Reiner to appear in court yesterday, but it was delayed since he had yet to be given medical clearance. Today, court officials will try again. The hearing is likely to be brief, with Reiner being formally told of the charges. He could also enter a plea. The two first-degree murder charges carry a maximum sentence of death, but the district attorney says he has not yet decided if he will seek the death penalty.
That's Steve Futterman reporting from Los Angeles. The manhunt continues for a suspect in the deadly mass shooting at Brown University. Officials say they're putting together a growing body of surveillance footage. They're hoping it will help them identify a person of interest. Ben Burke from Ocean State Media reports 2 people were killed in the shooting on Saturday and 9 others were injured.
Investigators are cobbling together footage from private surveillance systems, Ring doorbells, and Teslas in the neighborhood next to Brown's campus. When combined, investigators say this footage is creating a clearer picture of their suspect. A heavy-set person in dark clothing who carried a satchel and wore a winter hat and a surgical mask. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez says he thinks even this limited footage could help someone recognize the person of interest.
You want to focus on the body movements, the way the person moved their arms, the body posture.
Perez says the suspect arrived in the neighborhood over 5 hours before the shooting. He and other investigators said they still have no information about a possible motive. For NPR News, I'm Ben Burke in Providence.
Warner Brothers is urging its shareholders to reject a $108 billion takeover bid from Paramount. Instead, the board is standing by an agreement struck with Netflix to acquire its Hollywood studios and its streaming service, HBO. NPR's David Folkenflik has been following the sale.
They're questioning whether that $108 billion is solid. The Ellisons took on, and Paramount took on a lot of money from Middle Eastern funds to do this, many tens of billions of dollars, and they're questioning what they're calling the Ellison family's backstop. The Ellisons say, hey, look, we're good for it. We're putting $40 billion. It's part of our family trust, so you have it. And Warner Brothers is saying, we can't see into that trust. And it's also revocable, which means the terms of it are changeable. So we don't have insight into that trust.
NPR's David Folkenflik reporting. Stocks are trading lower on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 126 points. The Nasdaq down 289. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A court victory for Harris County has slammed the brakes on Attorney General Ken Paxton's moves to stop legal aid assistance for immigrants. Calling it a clear defeat for Ken Paxton, County Attorney Christian Menefee said the county's Immigrant Legal Services Fund helps immigrants access legal representation in immigration proceedings. County Judge Lina Hidalgo called the action by the Attorney General, quote, designed to win him support in the run for U.S. Senate. Paxton filed the suit last month accusing the county's Immigrant Legal Services Fund of violating the Texas Constitution. A man is facing multiple charges after leading police on 3 separate chases yesterday through different parts of the city. He got away from police on 2 different locations, but was ultimately taken into custody. Today, 1010 Lamar Street, the Harris County Administration Building, is officially being named for Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. The decision, made in March, was declared by County Judge Lina Hidalgo.
Therefore, be it resolved that Harris County Commissioners Court hereby honors Congressman Sylvester Turner's remarkable life, legacy, and love for Houston, and extends deepest sympathies to his family, friends, and all who mourn his passing, while committing to carry on his work to advance the values of equity, opportunity, and justice.
Turner served 2 terms as Houston mayor. He was elected last year to represent the 18th Congressional District, but died just a few months into office. In sports, the Rockets have the night off. They'll open up on the road in New Orleans tomorrow. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Your check of weather, areas of fog and mist with a chance of showers and thunderstorms before 5 o'clock this afternoon. Otherwise, cloudy, misty, and foggy with a high near 68. Right now, 63 degrees under mostly cloudy skies on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian. News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bayer. Bayer is dedicated to delivering breakthroughs that save lives and feed the world using the scientific process. Learn more at sciencedelivers.com. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston, whether you're tuning in to 88.7 on your radio or if you were watching on YouTube, then you got a glimpse of the skyline outside.
And they're even talking about the drizzleable weather.
Drizzleable?
Thank you. I want that word put in the lexicon, and I want credit.
You need to put a
so
little...
like in 100 years, it'll say, Frank
little
Billingsley,
royalty button at the end of the word.
1960 to 2060.
Yes.
But it probably won't happen. But
Yes.
you know what? We could maybe make it happen. Yeah.
Well, it is gloomy outside, Frank.
It is gloomy. We need a shot of it. There
And
we go.
there we go.
If you're watching on the YouTubes, you get to see it. And
I mean,
on the YouTubes, that became my parents there.
Someone has stolen the tops of the buildings.
Where did they go?
It's foggy and cloudy.
So is all that going to lift?
It is, but it's not going to be till tomorrow. It's going to be a dreary, drizzleable day. Not a lot of heavy rain, so that's good. So we're not looking for flooding issues, but it's going to continue to be a bit of a mess around the area. So that sometimes that's more dangerous weather because that's the kind of weather where people don't slow down as much. You know, if it's heavy rain, they slow down. But when it's just some light rain and fog, they tend to keep going pretty quickly. So be careful.
And everything outside just seems moist.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of that fog layer especially. And so then we go into a little cool down for Friday, a high of 65. But after that, we're 75 to 80 for the weekend, all the way into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Yay. I know.
But will the sun peek out?
Yes.
Or is it going to
be?
be?
Yeah. Sun's back tomorrow.
Okay.
Later tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's just today. But we're hump day.
Yeah.
We are. We made it midway through the week. This seems like a very long week, but as we've talked about this before. The closer you get to an anticipated holiday, everything just seems to drag as you're trying to get there through the molasses of the time.
It's weird. Everything slows down, but time speeds up.
Right.
Because you're also like, oh my gosh, I still have to get my last minute Christmas shopping. And did I send out my Christmas cards and all those things, which I have had my Christmas cards sitting on my table for.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you for doing it. I know Kevin bought a bunch of really nice cards, and I think they're probably, well, he's sent out a few. But he hasn't asked me to sign any, so if you get one for me.
We're going to scratch it out and say, Happy New Year.
Yeah. I buy lots of cards, and I have great intention. My theory is I want to do thank you notes after I've been to an event, and so I always buy thank you cards, and I figured that night when I get home, sit down and write one to the host or hostess immediately. And I've even set up a desk just for that. I never
How's it going?
Never.
You know, I wrote all my thank you notes before our wedding. So just because I thought, we're going to be in
that's
New York, we're in a different
smart.
place, it's going to be busy. I'm going to come down. The Christmas is going to happen. It's going to because it was December 12th, and so I thought I'm going to be way too busy, and then I'm going to get into the new year, and that's going to be like, thank you for the coming to our wedding and the gift. So
And then you went back and pulled out the names of the people you weren't really thankful for.
no, I wrote all the thank you notes before the wedding. Anyway, people don't write thank you notes much anymore.
But I want to do it. I think it's such a great thing. President Bush 41 used to be
everything.
notorious for writing wonderful. I've got notes from him. I got notes from Barbara. They were always just a joy. A lot of people did. They were very good about that. And it's just really cool.
I didn't.
You guys didn't? No. Oh, well,
No, sorry.
But it was a nice thing. And it's like you said, it's gone. That tradition seems to have been going away. And I want to do it. But
I tend to thank people in the way I was invited.
Yeah.
So if I was invited by text or something, I send them a thank you text. If I was invited with an actual invitation in the mail, I write them a thank you note that goes in the mail. That's sort of my rule.
So then I should send thank yous begrudgingly, because that was the same way I got invited.
Yeah, I mean, emails, I send an email. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah,
Anyway.
it is. Yes.
I'm always appreciated.
But why don't you tell us what's coming up?
We got a lot going
Hello
on
Houston.
today's show. A lot of people have heard in the news about Australia banning social media for everyone 16 and under. We're going to be talking about, could something like that actually work here? What would that look like? And what are the benefits of a ban
And is it a
like
mistake given the tragic shooting that occurred at Bondi Beach?
Yeah.
I mean, does social media help more than it hurts? I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
But in addition to that, you have an exclusive, Celeste, today, which I don't want to get
do.
lost in the mix, but
I
it's
do.
really cool.
Yes. NBC Nightly News is here. They're broadcasting live right here in Houston.
Looking at our lovely skyline in this lovely
know,
weather
right.
today.
I literally said that I really hope that the weather clears up for you all.
But saying that, their broadcast is at night, and the sun is down by 5:30, so it would be hard to get a beautiful shot of the city anyway.
It's at it's a 5:30 broadcast.
Yeah.
So, but this is one of their stops. Houston's one of their stops as part of the network's Reporting for America project.
So Tom Llamas is here.
Tom Llamas is here,
Very
and
cool.
it was great to talk to him about kind of what he has going on. But as well, his conversation is why Houston is definitely one of the stops that they needed to make.
FIFA would be one of the reasons, I would suspect. And, and NBC is a
The
strong
cool
station
thing is
here.
we don't have to guess, because Celeste is going to have all those answers for us in the next hour.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's going to be great.
And all that being said, we've got to get into a story yesterday
Oh, yeah.
everyone's talking about.
White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles isn't a name you often hear in the headlines, but after a very candid interview with Vanity Fair, it seems like she has a lot to say. In the unfiltered Vanity Fair article, Wiles called Vice President J.D. Vance a conspiracy theorist and Elon Musk an avowed ketamine user. Musk has previously denied using the drug. The chief of staff did not deny making any of the statements, but is calling the Vanity Fair story a disingenuously framed hit piece and said significant context was disregarded. However, in a separate interview with the New York Times, Wiles said she did not make a claim about Musk's alleged drug use, but the New York Times reporter said she could be heard saying it on a tape played by the Vanity Fair piece's author. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the White House remains united fully behind her. What are your thoughts on this article? Is it a hit piece, or is the White House on damage control? Now is the time to join the conversation. 713-440-8870.
It's the best damage control I've ever seen. They all admit, yes, even J.D. Vance said, yes, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but all the conspiracies I believe in are true. And that was his response to that. And that's brilliant to say, come at me, Grandma. It doesn't matter what you say. I will agree with you, and this will all be gone by Friday.
Well, the thing is that I thought sums it up perfectly is what Celeste said in our morning meeting today. I'm going to buy a copy of the magazine. I'm going to sit down, my cup of coffee, and I'm going to read it. That's exactly what it's for. It's for selling magazines.
In a way, it's working out for both parties.
Yeah,
right?
Because here I am. One, I haven't picked up a magazine in a very long time, but there's something about thinking, it's kind of juicy. You don't want it to be, and I hate the way that I'm having to talk about that about our highest level of government officials. But the truth is I am going to probably pick up the magazine and read it over the holiday.
Well, she's an insider, that's for sure.
Exactly.
But I've never heard Donald Trump admit that that he has flaws. I mean, she said it's like living with an alcoholic, and he just goes crazy sometimes. And he said, thank goodness I don't drink, because she's right. I do kind of go crazy sometimes. And
he's been doing a little bit of that more lately, where when people like call him on something, he's been like, yeah, well, almost like, yeah, you got me.
Maybe
but
that's the new...
Yeah.
That new standard operating procedure over there.
Maybe.
Just
the other thing that's
call
interesting
you out, say,
is that it wasn't an interview. They did, if I understand correctly, 11 interviews with her over a period of time building this piece. Also, they had incredible access. They photographed everyone there at the White House.
With some unflattering photographs.
And they allowed
You see
that.
the Caroline Levitt photo?
Yeah.
And it's close up.
Yep.
And it shows all those puncture marks on her
yeah.
lips where she gets fillers, which I'm all for cosmetic surgery. Trust me.
That's our spokeschild
hey,
here.
My doctor's on speed dial when it comes to Botox. But I've never done something that made a permanent kind of mark on my lips. But boy, she has.
What I found very interesting is when Wiles was pressed about why the president seems to come after female journalists. I thought it was so interesting how she said he's a counter puncher, and basically said women are the ones who are the first to punch. And I thought that was fascinating.
That is his MO.
I mean, the punchers are women, and the president is a counter puncher. I was like, that's such an interesting way to say it, because a part of me is like, well, yeah.
One of our colleagues says, I heard it was controlled and another distraction to Epstein.
Epstein files are all supposed to be released, by Friday?
Yeah.
And so people
let's Vanity Fair
something going on. I will say one other thing, too. Susie Wiles, and we'll talk more about her in a minute because we do have a call I want to grab. But Susie Wiles was, as I understand it, friendly with, that may be too comfortable a word, with the journalist, and they were together a lot of time. And so she may have felt at points this wasn't on the record. They were talking as people who have known each other for a long time.
Well, you don't talk to New York Times or Vanity Fair and think, they're not going to say this about
somebody said
that.
So that reporter has burned his relationship with her because they were close enough that he had inside scoop from her at times. And so, but for the sake of this article, which obviously is getting the attention they want, it's interesting.
But, that's also interesting just from a media strategy standpoint. And when you have public figures, oftentimes when, people are on campaign and they're going out, the interviews that get them elected officials most in trouble are the comfortable night, with
or
a Jimmy Fallon.
When they think their mic is
off mic, when they're comfortable versus the hard-hitting news. Talk to me about this policy, or you said this, or you did that. Versus we're just going to sit around and we're going to be chummy and chat.
Well, in the heyday of interviews, when we used to tape those, I wouldn't meet with the guest until they sat down in the chair across from me to begin the interview. And when we were done rolling tape, they got up and left because we didn't want anyone to think we were playing with anything or we were setting them up or any of that. 713-440-8870. I cut you off, Frank.
There's a text I want to get to before you take that call from Sam. This is from Colby and Katie. It's noteworthy how much Trump's comments about Rob Reiner have done more damage than this interview.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Very true, too.
Yes.
And it also took that off people's
Colby.
radar pretty quickly.
Very quickly. But let's go to the phone line. Sam from Sugarland is on the line. Sam, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Yeah, hello, madam. My comment is this. Every time there's a drug controversy in the White House, the media is very soft towards the Democrats and the leftists, but they're very severe on the Republicans. Imagine the Hunter Biden, and during his time, they found drugs in the White House. Everything was quiet. Even FBI hushed the issue. This thing about Epstein files, this has been there for 12, 14 years. Yeah. We have had 3 Democratic presidents, in fact, and then 1 Republican president in between. And there's another 1 Republican president. Nothing has been done during this entire time. Well, and now there's somebody who is doing something and still the media goes on. I don't know.
Sam, I will say the difference is now it's the law of the land that those files need to be replaced. It was voted in by Congress and signed by the president, so they have a deadline, and then they're
you
in
said
breach
replaced.
of the
You
law.
meant released.
Released. I'm sorry. Yeah, not replaced. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for catching that.
Sam, I also think that there is a lot of sentiment that people feel like we hold, President Trump, anything he says and does, to a different standard than maybe perhaps other Democratic presidents that the past. But looking at specifically the Epstein files, if you just want to take a look, President Trump ran on the release
of them,
of the files. Yeah. And so that is, I think, the issue of if you're going to run on a specific situation, then you need to make good.
Well, he got that MAGA base to the polls on that whole Epstein issue.
Yeah, then they pulled back.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, we mentioned Rob Reiner a few minutes ago, and on Friday's show, we are going to take a look back at a conversation I had with Rob Reiner.
Yeah, you interviewed him.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear it.
Yeah, on Friday. The full interview is on YouTube. You can find it there if you look for interviews and Rob Reiner. But we'll reflect on that. I'm just bringing it up because it was mentioned in an earlier comment. Yeah, it is. This whole Vanity Fair article fascinates me. It's those moments that in some way define a presidency. In years to come, people will look back at this article because when Vanity Fair does a massive piece on something like this, it becomes the word. Yeah.
Do you think that this almost, in some ways, could not necessarily backfire in the way that I think people think of backfiring on Vanity Fair, but almost make this administration seem more relatable to people that don't necessarily feel like they relate on anything regarding politics, but yet just having a refreshing person within the administration come out and say, yeah, or like you said, none of them have denied anything. They're owning it. They're saying, yeah, we're a little
we keep saying
to some, but this is
denying anything. She said she never said about the drug use with Elon Musk, and then they had it on audio tape her saying it. So she did deny what was in the article and turned out to be
and she
lying.
did say, this was taken out of regard and context, out
Always.
of context.
If it wasn't put in there the way I meant it, then it's out of context.
It's out of
Hey, Chris is on the line.
Yeah, 713-440-8870. Chris, what's on your mind?
Yeah, no, I watched the interview with Anderson Cooper last night of the reporter that did the thing on with Susie Wiles, and he said he has tapes of every conversation that they had, and everyone knew exactly what was going on. So they're trying to hide something, at least in my opinion, in the obvious. He didn't lie about anything. He can prove everything that she said in that article.
Yep.
And they're trying to hide it.
It fascinates me, that whole mindset that we see a lot of from this administration is, and they're not, as Frank and Celeste have been saying, doing that as much this time, where they always say, we never said that, that's a lie, prove us wrong, then someone proves them wrong, and they just move on to the next. They keep changing the target. Here, actually, as they've been saying, for most of it, they're like, yeah.
Except for Elon Musk, which is the sticking point with her, that she didn't say that, but they said, oh, yeah, we heard it on another interview tape. You did say that he was on ketamine. And he's the one person who hasn't come out and said, you know what, I might have been on a little something, but you're not going to sit and guess about what it is.
That's a very strong allegation.
Sure.
Chris, does it
does seem crazy.
Chris, does it make you change your point of view or thoughts at all on the administration? Was it eye-opening what you heard, or was it just reaffirming of things you believed?
It's just what I believe.
Yeah.
There's too much obfuscation with this administration. It's slide it over here, slide it over there. Don't look here. There's nothing to see here. No, we didn't do any of that.
Yeah. Chris, thank you very much for calling and sharing with us. Remember, we're always interested in what everyone out there thinks about the topics, no matter your point of view. Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
What do you think about $1.25 billion coming your way?
I think I'm playing Powerball, and I am not a gambler.
It's going to be a great Christmas for somebody.
If I'm not here tomorrow, I picked the lucky numbers.
So Dan doesn't like to play the at all lottery or anything, but I love it. And every time I go buy a ticket, I say, this is mine.
Yeah.
So if I win.
Or it could be ours. If you win, to heck with Dan. Just come live with us.
Ours. Yeah.
You can bring your kids, too.
It is funny
I've always wanted to live in a high rise.
It is funny how with 1.2 billion, you can.
Yeah, you can have your own high rise.
It is funny to me how we hear this amount, and I think we all have that moment where we think, we could win that.
It
if I
could
played
happen.
it, I could get
if you can't win if you don't play, and the drawing is
Can't
tonight.
win it if you're not in it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with psychologist Dr. Kelly Cosgrove about Australia's ban on social media for kids under 16 and if essentially the U.S. could do something like that. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from the Moody Center for the Arts, hosting Art Lab, where guests can create zip tie sculptures inspired by biomorph. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. December 16th through the 20th. More at moody.rice.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from arbitrator, mediator, and attorney Sylvia Mayer, providing in-person and video conference arbitration and mediation services. More information available at smayerlaw.com.
Support comes from Discovery Green Conservancy, presenting Houston's outdoor ice skating rink, offering a wintertime experience for all, surrounded by public art and downtown views. Open through February 16th. More at discoverygreen.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Earlier this month, the Australian government announced a landmark move, banning children under 16 from using major social media platforms. Supporters say it could protect young people from harm, while critics question how effective or realistic it's going to be. But could a social media ban like that work here in America? Would we even want it? To help us understand what this could mean for kids' mental health and social development, we're joined by Dr. Kelly Cosgrove, assistant professor and licensed psychologist in the clinical psychology program at the University of Houston. Dr. Cosgrove, welcome to Hello Houston. If you'd like to join the conversation, call or text 713-440-8870. I want to start with this. We all saw kids at college who had never been exposed to alcohol or drugs, and they get to college and they go crazy. Where in Europe, kids learn to drink a little wine when they're 14, 15. They're edged into it. Even before you get your driver's license, you have a year of permitting to kind of learn how it works. So we're going to ban these kids from social media under the age of 16, and then we're going to unleash Facebook and Twitter and all that on them at 17? Is that smart?
Yeah, that's hilarious, because last night I was thinking about this conversation and had the exact same kind of metaphor in my head.
We're
Yes.
simpatico here.
I didn't know if it was the most professional opinion, but that's the first example that came to mind. And yeah, exactly. I think when I reflect on this, that's the same kind of thought that I have of if you've ever been in a situation, especially with a child, where you've told someone don't do something, the first reaction is, oh, I'm going to do that.
I'm jumping on the trampoline.
Especially a 15-year-old. Yeah, I think that we really need to think about how we can maybe teach or build an education about these programs and these media sites. And, that's we're not even touching on AI with this ban, but, that's a whole other conversation. But, yeah, really needing some education rather than just bans.
Yeah. But I also would argue that research shows over continuously how harmful social media can be on young students. And your frontal lobe isn't even developed until, in your 18, 19, 20, 22.
30 these days.
Yeah. And so why not just totally ban it and then at 16 go from there?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I think now with the research that we have, frontal lobes and brains are developing even throughout the 30s at this point. And so, again, 16 feels like a very arbitrary number. And realistically, right, if you're going to set a ban, what is the right age? I don't know if we'll ever have an answer to that. But yeah, these things are going to exist, and kids are smart, and if we ban them, they're just going to find other ways of navigating the internet. And so without the education, just banning something doesn't feel like a solution. There has to be structure to replace that.
So let's take a step back then from all this and following up with what Celeste was just saying. What do we know is the harm of these platforms? Where is the problem here? What actually is it that you folks can point to and say, this is why we need to be policing it? Because what is happening to this generation?
Yeah, I will say that the research is really tricky, right? Because as a psychologist, when we do experiments, we want to have control over the situation, which means we want to be able to say, okay, you start social media when you're 11 years old and you don't, and let's see what happens, right? We want to randomly assign people to these conditions, and that's an ideal situation. And obviously that's not realistic for the real world. And so all of the research that we have is under that caveat that we aren't able to randomly assign people to conditions and therefore cannot make any causal claims about social media. So everything that we do know is correlational, meaning it's just associations. We can't say social media causes anything, but we can see that there are associations. Even, I'm a neuroscientist by training, and we see associations with brain activity, specifically in regions associated with attention and memory and learning. So these are very realistic implications.
Well, Australia is going to give you this control group.
Yes, in a way, right? Again, it's not randomly assigned. So,
but it's everybody under
a
16.
Case study, fabulous. Yes, we'll have a country level case study.
Yeah, you can compare them to British students and American students. And I would stick with English speaking just because the culture is a little different.
Yeah.
But don't you think that this could be really eye-opening in 5 years?
For sure. And I think, I have many kudos to them for, kind of being the first to try this. And I think there are going to be many hiccups along the way. But like you said, without, regardless of how it plays out, it'll be useful information.
Yeah. But take me back for a second, though. Are we noticing, because we seem to think and say, it's more stress on kids, they're more confused, the attention span, all of that. Is that true? Is that what we're seeing in this generation of kids? Are they more stressed out? Are they more, regardless of what's causing it, is that what we're seeing?
Yes, and as a psychologist, I've learned that the answer is never just one thing. And so to blame it all on social media, I think is a bit unfair. However, yes, we see that increased rates of anxiety, depression are absolutely true. But if you think about the past 10, 20 years, we've had pretty unprecedented times. I feel like unprecedented is the new precedented at this rate. And so, is it social media? Possibly.
Make a T-shirt that says that. I like that slogan.
But looking at kids that were, looking at kids and that it might be depressed or having anxiety or looking at those issues, without the social media component, would there be the normal triggers to that? Or what is happening differently besides social media that would cause an uptick in kids' anxiety?
I think that, our culture generally, right, with technology, not just social media, but technology, and even since post-COVID, just the level of demands on people's time, not even just kids, right? I think really if we're going to talk about social media, it's everybody that's using social media, which is adults too. But technology and just the kind of need to be on and present and do as much as possible with our time is just constantly increasing. I think that there's just a lot of demands on people's time, and that's very stressful. And figuring out how to balance all of those things, and then adding on social media as another thing for kids to worry about, absolutely is going to be a stressful experience.
Are we still in that trickle-down effect in that whatever college kids do, the high school kids end up doing? And then the middle school kids copy them, and even the fifth graders copy the middle school. Because in my experience, when they get to fifth grade, you lose them until they need a car. Then they come back.
Yeah, and I do think that is something we can thank social media for is not only is it within the same school, like, right, used to be, like, your reference point was the older kids in your school, and now it's older kids not only in your city, but also your country and across the world. So there's a lot of, I think, kind of access to information that kids never used to have, which is, again, going to be both positive and negative.
Well, everybody loves Taylor Swift because everybody's supposed to love Taylor Swift.
Right?
Yeah, boom,
Well, you mentioned, I'm thinking about outside influences, and we're talking about social media from a student and a child perspective. But as a parent myself, I would say that a social media ban would be absolutely a game changer in parenting, because more than ever parents have outside influences that they didn't have before, telling their child, well, look over here, look what's happening over here, why don't you get this, or you don't like pink, you like this. So from a social media ban perspective for parents, do you think that this would help parents navigating children with anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as I was mentioning, parents especially, I think, have so much more on their plates these days to manage. Like parenting, the expectations of what a parent does is just so much higher than it used to be a few decades ago. So yes, parents have a lot on their plate, and social media does not help with that. And I think if we bring it back to the start of this conversation, a parent's role is to support their child's development. And part of that is, the main way children learn how to approach the world is by watching their parents. It's not even explicit conversations or instruction. It's by watching what their parents do. And what are their parents doing? They're on their phones as well. And so another reason, right, if we're banning social media for kids, but then parents are still using it, what does that show? Is that not just going to increase the allure? But absolutely, yes. It's, that's something to consider when thinking about parenting.
To push back on that example a little bit, you can't drive a car till you're a certain age, and your parents are driving cars. So we do have these guys, you can't drink till a certain age, parents drink, you don't. There are certain moments where we have these transitions. I'm wondering if a better approach than banning, even though I just kind of talked the other way about it, is a better program of social media literacy, teaching people how to use the tools instead of limiting the tools.
Absolutely. That's kind of how I see it. I think a guideline would absolutely be useful, kind of like you were alluding to there, of maybe what's an appropriate age to start using some of these platforms. But also, yes, then once you have access, how are you going to use it in an appropriate way? And these are similar conversations that we hope parents are having about sex and drugs and alcohol and all the other things that kids are going to encounter throughout their lives, which are hard things to talk about. So we also need supports for parents to know how to have those conversations. And so, yes, I think developing content related to how parents can approach those conversations would be crucial.
Staying with this, and this may be the wrong conversation to be having at lunchtime, but we had all this fear, and we talked so much about the evils of pornography. But then the internet put it at access to everybody. Did the fears we have of this ready access prove to be true, or did we adapt and, as a people, understand and younger people learned how to interpret what they were seeing differently? Or was it the harms and the evils that everyone feared?
Yeah, that is not my area of expertise. So off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you based off of the research what we know on that. And we are all people. And so I think everyone could draw from their own experience of what that has been like for them. And we also know that for kids, there is access to that stuff. And that is very harmful. And that is something absolutely that should be banned. And is it always? No, kids are able to find workarounds and access it, even if it's not intended. And so I think the same thing, right? If we're thinking about social media, could also happen.
Is this a fail point? I mean, social media is here.
Yep.
Are we all of a sudden going to try to make sense of it in a different way than the way it has been here for the last 20 years? Is that even practical? I know Australia is trying to just lower the boom. I'm not sure it can be done, especially in a country like America.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's here, so let's figure out what we do about it, right? Let's educate people. Let's put guidelines in place. That to me feels like a more useful approach.
But isn't that a guideline being put in place?
Yes. But what else are we doing, right? Just to straight up ban without any other supports or education is kind of where I think we could continue to benefit.
And I do want to circle back to Ernie's point about, pornography has always been there. I think the issue that parents are now seeing with the internet is that it's available 24 hours. Yep. It's available at any moment, accessibility-wise. If the child has a phone, they can be on it. And what we know, there is studies that continue to show that the first pornographic image a child sees, the age has gone down to 9 years old.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about.
So actually, that's an interesting thing that when I was, kind of reading about this ban, something that I didn't even think about was that with getting rid of child set accounts, right? There are accounts that you can set up for children, like on YouTube and things. Well, if you get rid of access to those sites for kids, you get rid of those accounts, which means that you can't have parental controls. And so if a 7, 8, 9-year-old is still getting on YouTube, but they're not on their kid account, is that not going to increase the likelihood of that?
That is an interesting point.
There's an interesting point here from one of our YouTubers. Were there studies done about the effects of television on children in the 50s and 60s? I know my father called it the boob tube, and he would just, he did. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where he got that word.
Thank you, Rudy, for bringing it to television harming people. I went to pornography. This was the more palatable
My dad called it the idiot box.
Yeah, that too. I loved television. In fact, I made a career out of it. I would sit there. I would rather watch TV all day than go out and play baseball. And my parents drove them, but I don't think it did me any harm. Do you?
Well,
except I didn't get a baseball
it's
scholarship.
Different. It is different. We do know that it's different, right? Viewing something that the whole family can watch, a big screen.
I was sitting there by myself.
Well, but theoretically, it's on the wall, or it was on the, when we had boxes, it was on the cabinet, whatever. But it's something I can walk by and they say, "Oh, what are you watching?" I can see what you're doing. A small screen is really hard to see for parents.
And you can even make it so you can't see it from the side, right?
Yep. Yeah,
make
the
a privacy
screen.
Yeah.
But looking at guidelines, I think another question that I have is, where does the accountability fall? Does it fall on the parents? Does it fall on the student? Does it fall on the government? Does it fall on software companies? Where does it fall? In your perspective, from your psychological point?
I mean, honestly, I think all of the above. It feels like a cheating answer, but I think is realistic, that we all kind of need to do our part. And I think, I study parenting, so my brain always goes to parenting, and that, again, is going to be the most immediate influence over a child's development. However, parents, again, like I said earlier, have a lot going on, so it's unfair to put it all on them. So schools, right? Why can't we have classes on this stuff and how to navigate the internet safely, right? There's policy that can be done in addition to what's happening at home.
We're talking to Dr. Kelly Cosgrove, assistant professor and licensed psychologist in the clinical psychology program at the University of Houston. If you'd like to join our conversation, 713-440-8870. There are good things to the internet, even when you're 8 years old. Yeah. And we've seen those. And it can be a teachable moment for the good and the bad.
The PBS app.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Good. Plug that. And that's the thing. They're not banning use of the internet. It's about a ban on social media.
Specific sites.
Those are specific sites that are...
I don't know what that means, honestly.
Well, like you can't get on Instagram, you can't Twitter, you can't, things that are...
YouTube is included in there. AI, like ChatGPT, is not,
what
from
about
my
Tinder?
understanding.
What about those kind of apps?
Oh, I don't know. I think those already have age.
Those do have
age. Well, isn't Facebook supposed to have some kind of control, like age 13 or something?
Here in the U.S., we do have age requirements. I believe Instagram is now like 13.
Yeah, 13's been the magic number in America.
Yeah.
That's why 16 in Australia is a little different and a little more interesting, because there you're talking about kids that
are in high school.
Well, they can drive motocycles, yeah.
Well, this isn't scientific. This is my own life experience, but I was slow to join social media when I was a teen, and I remember talking to my parents about it and being like, well, this is how people are getting invited to parties, but I really didn't have a lot of interest in it. But then I ended up getting it just because I felt like I wanted to be connected to my peers. And, I think we think about, who's going to be impacted by a ban like this. There are going to be teens who are smart enough to make workarounds and get access and connect with their peers. And then there are going to be people who may not. And so I think this, in some ways, could lead to some inequity in social capacities for kids who may already be excluded and not have those connections who really need it.
I just want to add to what you said, too. New sites will spring up.
Yeah.
And also now, your gaming sites, people chat on chat on boards. So there's always another way we're communicating.
Yeah, shout out to parents if you have kids on Roblox. I know that's a very common one that kids are chatting with, and you think it's just for games, but they can actually chat with each other.
If there was to be a ban in the United States, do you know where that would come from? I have no idea.
You mean
would
policy-wise?
Congress have to do it?
I think so. I think that, unfortunately, social media sites, the companies have an interest in having more users, right? Because there's a financial gain there.
Sure.
So I don't think they're going to willingly limit their users.
Well, in Texas, we've made it so that parents have the right to control their kids. Schools don't. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting if anything like this happened where that would divide.
And there are some schools in America that have made phone bans where you can't bring phones to school. So that's another interesting opportunity for research. When, in a few years, we'll be able to see what kind of effects that may have had.
But also the whole idea of a VPN, too, which is where you can relocate where your server is, so you can go from another country. Here in Texas, we have a ban on certain websites. All you have to do is go through a VPN and go to a different state, and you have access to it.
Yeah.
So you can make these rules, but I think it goes back to, if you don't teach social media literacy, how to engage with the tools that are there, you're never going to win this argument.
And it's also interesting, growing up, I remember sitting on the computer and I played Paint and Solitaire. That was
yeah, I still do.
Paint and Solitaire.
Dr. Kelly Cosgrove, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Dr. Cosgrove is an assistant professor and licensed psychologist in the clinical psychology program at the University of Houston. Coming up, Moody Gardens twist on a Christmas show. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Make a movie about this.
The Arts Hour brings you film,
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
books,
The detail is amazing.
art,
There's all the personal stuff.
theatre,
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
music,
The dance floor is made for dancing.
and everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour, Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was like really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm going to sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Houston Symphony, presenting Elf in Concert at Jones Hall, featuring the full movie accompanied by live orchestra performing the score, December 19th through 21st. Information at houstonsymphony.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing Metro Downtown Direct, helping riders get home for the holidays with non-stop service between downtown and Bush Intercontinental Airport. Details at ridemetro.org/500.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and Frank Billingsley.
We're back. I don't know if anybody can hear us because we're just talking up a storm in here because our next guest brought us gifts and we are like children in here like it was Christmas morning.
Look at my hat. Look at my hat. Look at my hat.
I know.
How
you got
cute.
the cute hat.
I
You
know.
promised it to me afterwards. You look like
Only 'cause you're
Herbie.
bugging me.
You look like Herbie the elf.
Yes.
From what you call it, from Rudolph, because you have that little flip of hair right in the front, your little hat on.
Oh, I do. Yes, I'm seeing myself
A
on
little
our-
bit,
Yeah,
yes.
on our
Yes.
YouTube channel.
Let me actually introduce the segment
I
that we
look
can
kind
get
of
into being
adorable,
goofy
actually,
again.
Ellen. I'm looking at myself.
Yes, you always look
Cute.
adorable, Frank. The holiday season is in full swing in the Houston-Galveston area, and Moody Gardens in Galveston has transformed its grounds into Holiday in the Gardens, a winter wonderland of sparkling lights, outdoor ice skating, festive trails, and family-friendly attractions that runs now through early January. This year also brings Holiday Fantasy, the North Pole's Got Talent. Huh? It's a high-energy live show with acrobats and aerialists and fire dancers and more, adding a theatrical highlight to this year's seasonal celebration. And to tell us more about what's going on at Moody Gardens this year, we have Jared Schaller with us. He is the Moody Gardens PR manager. Welcome.
Thank you so much. As you can tell, this is a very serious segment and topic that we need to discuss today.
We talked about us a whole lot, but you got to go online and see what he's wearing. He's
Yes.
grown a tree on his head.
See, Jared, I think you know the secret sauce to our hearts because you used to be a TV news producer.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So it's being entertaining, fun, doing something unique, you know. And I saw this ad and I was like, I
It's a
got to
must.
bring it.
We
Yes,
worked together.
for sure. Did y'all really
Yes,
at
yes.
KPC?
We're old buddies.
Yeah.
We worked at
Walked our cars at 10 o'clock at night together after the show.
We have our nightly chat as we're running to our cars ready to get home.
Hey, I got to tell you, I went to Moody Gardens and saw the Iceland, which I was there live for years when I worked for Channel 2. So I've seen them all. This is the best one yet. These guys, I think it's 22 of them come over from Harbin, China, which if you Google Harbin, China, Ice City, they make their whole city an ice sculpture because it's cold enough to sustain it. It's amazing. And so we're lucky that Moody Gardens brings them over and they create this Iceland, which you can see online if you go to the site. But it's the best one. It has a great bar for adult beverages. It has the slide for the kids, and it just has so much great work to it. It's where it alone is worth going to Moody Gardens.
They have 37 days to get it all done. It's 2 million pounds of ice brought in from College Station Penguin Ice. And I'm sorry if we cause some traffic jams. It takes about 30 truckloads, 18-wheelers going down 45 to bring all the ice down to us in Galveston Island.
Well, in addition to all of the attractions we'll go through, you got to talk to me about North Pole's Got Talent.
North Pole's Got Talent. It is a brand new dinner and show. It's kind of like the Cirque of the South of what I like to call it.
Cirque of the South.
Cirque of the South. We got to put that Southern twang on it sometimes, So it's Walton Hawley, and they're looking for the top talent of the North Pole. And there's going to be Cirque acts. Like we have a brand new Wheel of Destiny. So Wheel of Destiny, I was like, whenever somebody told me that, I'm like, what in the world is that? So that's that thing that spins. It's a hollow cylinder, and somebody's jumping in and out of the hollow cylinder as it's going around in circles,
So it really is like Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, yes.
I got acrobatic and all of that.
We got a special preview yesterday. I got dizzy just trying to look at that dude as he was jumping in and out, and I'm like, I do not want that job.
Yeah. As we talk about down at Moody, they do all this cool stuff. When you add to or reinvent or reimagine, how are you deciding what areas to focus on? Is it feedback from the folks that have been there? Is it there's some big master plan you're building toward over years? How do you decide?
We take a really good listen to our Moody Gardens members, and every year we send them just like a survey, or, last week I was manager on duty, so I was just waiting outside Iceland, just getting honest opinions and feedback, what they liked about it. They really love this year's theme because it's Christmas around the world, and like a lot of us, I don't get to travel around the globe a lot, so you get to see all these big, huge, famous landmarks in one place. And the common complaint from them was it's too cold, and I'm like, well, we have to keep it cold. It's nice.
But you supply jackets, so it's not like you have to have your own. And it's going to be a warm week next week, I will say that, which I think will actually increase your attendance because it's kind of pleasant. It's not going to be like Palm Springs. It's going to be nice, but I think going in and all cold is going to be brilliant. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the magician that you have on.
Oh, the magician. He showed me a trick yesterday. He had this just little clipboard, and then, he put bowling and had me write bowling on it. And then he closed the clipboard, and then basically he opened it back up, and a bowling ball somehow managed to fall out, a full-size bowling ball. And I went to pick it up because I'm like, this is fake. Come on now. It was an 8-pound bowling ball. Somehow it came out of just this clipboard, and I'm just like, what in the world just happened? And then he brought in, where the assistant gets carved in half.
Oh, yeah.
And then he asked me if I wanted to participate. I was like, not a chance. I've seen CSI. No. I've watched that. And then he brought something where he lights himself on fire. And I'm like, I don't want to participate in that either. But his name is Brad Ross. He's a master illusionist. And it's really just incredible to get to see some of the tricks that he gets to do. And you'll get to see it all during the show Holiday Fantasy North Pole's Got Talent. It's just one of those where it's like, I don't want to know the answer just how he performs some of these tricks, but it's really cool to get to see in person.
Where does all the ice, some British computer guy says, when all that ice melts, where does it go?
It actually just goes right down to the drain. We have our own drainage system. And the thing that people don't know is we get the color in the ice from milk. So when that ice starts to melt, it gets really stinky inside of there. So be glad we keep it at 9 degrees inside.
Yeah.
It's one of those you don't learn, because I went in there, I'm brand new to Moody Gardens earlier this year, and I went in there and I'm like, why does it smell like this? I'm like, why would anybody go into this? But it's the milk. So it's a really interesting process, and it takes a few weeks for it to all melt.
Oh, tell us about Festival of Lights. I know there's a million lights out there.
Oh, it's one of those cool events where it's just like, it's fun to walk with the whole family. It's a mile-long trail with 2 million plus lights, and we have a really unique atmosphere. We're an island, so we're right along the water, and it's all set to holiday music, holiday lights. We also have golf carts for those who, may have mobility issues as well. But it's just one of those cool things where, don't tell my bosses this, but I go escape on the trail some nights. And you can just sit there and you can listen to the 12 Days of Christmas for a few times. And then, after the third time, I'm like, I'm done with this.
Enough
Otherwise,
days
I
of
go
Christmas.
crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just cool. Every 50 feet, there's a new scene, there's a new music to establish the scene, and you can just really escape from the holidays.
LED lights. They're climate correct.
Yes, they are. They are climate correct. We are also doing a holiday light recycling program right now. So if you have broken lights, lights right now that aren't working, you can bring them with you, and you can we have a huge bin in the middle of the parking lot, and you can just drop them off as you go in to have some holiday fun, and we recycle every bit and part of those holiday lights.
There's also a new baby chick, Macaroni, that was born this month. Talk to me about.
Celeste is very excited.
I'm very excited about Macaroni. Proud parents, Gargonzola and Blue. So talk to me about Macaroni.
Hatched November, I believe it was November 12th.
Oh,
the
okay.
cutest little baby of joy. And, we let them stay with the parents off on their own. And then 3 weeks in, we got some pictures along the way, and I'm like, this is not a chick anymore. Penguins actually grow really, really fast, which I didn't know. So I'm learning something new every single day that I'm there. I'm like, and it's one of those awkward teenage years when I saw it, because it was like, the mother and the father, and they were like hitting each other with their wings. And I'm like, this is a very interesting thing to get to see. But no, the baby chick is doing very, very well. It'll be actually named after a pasta. So first generation is named after cheeses, and second generations are born named after pastas.
Well, I took the penguin tour. In fact, I gave it as a Christmas gift, but it's for 4. So I gave it, and I said, you need to take me and Kevin. And so, and so we went out with Christy and Lance. So the 4 of us went on the penguin tour. I learned so much about penguins. First of all, they're kind of oily. Then they have hair. And there are 18 different varieties, and y'all have about 11 of them, I think.
We have 7 total, so 1 for warmer hemisphere, and then 6 of them that like the cold environment.
Not all penguins were created equal.
No, and they are cute and cuddly, but, you learn a lot of weird facts. Like, everybody's like, I want to be a penguin keeper. No, you don't. You're basically picking up every 10 minutes when they use the restroom. It's one of those, and then they're really, really smelly. They look so cute and cuddly my first time there, and then when you go and I get lucky. I get to meet a penguin. I'm like, oh, you smell. What did you eat today? It's just one of those where you're just like, it's one of those experiences.
They're like dressed to walk so fancy in their tuxedo.
Yeah, they're always dressed for a
They like to walk
event.
through their own poop. and so they figured out if they like to walk through their own poop, then why don't we put paint on their feet and let them walk across canvases and sell them as penguin art? And I have that too. I have penguin art.
And all the funds right there from the penguin art go directly right into our penguin rehabilitation and our education programs for penguins. So it's one of those, it's a full life circle.
Well, just not to let anyone feel out all your regular attractions, how much do they shift toward holiday attractions too, so that you get this full feeling?
I like the holidays just because we stay open later, either 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Those are my hours.
Yeah.
We worked that for a long time.
We're night owls.
During the off season, it's 4 p.m., but we stay open late till 9 or 10 p.m. You get the full atmosphere. The rainforest closes at 4, so I always suggest people, do the value pass, and you can explore all of our attractions, spend the whole entire day. You can even take a middle break and explore the island of Galveston as well. It's just one of those where our attractions, it is full on. I mean, look at my hat. We are ready for the holidays. We are ready to celebrate Christmas. We are ready to have fun, especially with our holiday fantasy show. It's all Christmas themed, Christmas jingles, and it's one of those great opportunities where, we can't all go to Las Vegas. So it's fun just to get to, see the South version, and you can see, along with the magician, we have fire dancers. He previewed it to me yesterday too, and I was like, I'm not getting near that either.
And you go till when? January
3rd is when it goes through. So
okay.
We're coming.
I've been. It's terrific. I highly recommend it.
I support y'all. Come on out and let's have some holiday fun.
Jared Schaller is the public relations manager for Moody Gardens. Jared, it is always a pleasure to have you here at Hello Houston. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And coming up, we're going to continue diving into today's top stories. We're also going to discuss the Department of Justice ending its monitoring of illegal dumping in Houston. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Hi, this is Steve Inskeep. When you roll out of bed, bleary-eyed and groggy, if you're like me, the first thing on your mind is getting something to wake you up. So turn on the radio. NPR's daily news program, Morning Edition, has been working through the night to get you the news you need. It's as essential to your morning as a good cup of coffee. So hit the ground running by listening to Morning Edition from NPR News.
Morning Edition, weekdays 5 to 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages. More information at genpro.com or by calling 713-597-3521.
We have a 50% chance of more showers and thunderstorms today. Patchy fog tonight, a low near 62, 64, and this is your NPR station. KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo will join us to explain a shortfall in the county's budget and to share her thoughts on who should replace her and who shouldn't. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manouse. We'll also be joined by AP reporter Juan Lozano discussing his report on the Justice Department quietly ending its monitoring of illegal dumping in Houston neighborhoods.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman, plus my one-on-one with the NBC Nightly News anchor and managing editor Tom Llamas, just ahead of his broadcast tonight from Houston.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Nick Reiner, the son of slain Hollywood director Rob Reiner, made his first court appearance in Los Angeles today. He's facing 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his parents. Defense attorney Alan Jackson spoke outside of the courthouse just a short time ago.
We ask that you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward, not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves.
Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead inside their Brentwood home on Sunday. If convicted, Nick Reiner is facing a possible sentence of life in prison without parole or the death penalty. The next court date has been scheduled for January 7th. President Trump is expanding a travel ban. It adds more countries to a blacklist, making it harder or even impossible for their citizens to come to the U.S. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports on the administration's efforts to restrict travel and immigration.
Earlier this year, Trump named 12 high-risk countries banning or restricting their nationals from coming to the U.S. Now 5 more countries are being added to the list: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, and Syria. According to a White House proclamation, the administration is also banning anyone holding documents issued by the Palestinian Authority. It's also imposing partial restrictions on 15 other countries, including Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, whose teams will be playing in the World Cup next year. The White House says there are carve-outs for athletes and diplomats or individuals whose entry, quote, serves U.S. national interests. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
Police in Australia have formally charged the surviving suspect in the shooting attack on Bondi Beach in Sydney last weekend. Christina Kukula reports the man earlier identified as Naveed Akram appeared in court by video link from his hospital bed.
Police say they have formally charged the 24-year-old with 59 offences, including committing a terrorist act and 15 counts of murder. The charges were filed after Akram woke up from a coma in hospital where he's being treated for injuries. Police allege he's one of 2 gunmen responsible for the shooting attack that killed at least 15 people and injured dozens more last weekend. Authorities confirmed the other suspect, his 50-year-old father Sajid Akram, was killed in a shootout with police. They say early indications point to a terrorist act inspired by the Islamic State group. For NPR News, I'm Christina Kukola in Sydney.
On Wall Street, the Dow is down 75 points. This is NPR News in in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. The American Civil Liberties Union and other organizations will be in federal court Thursday seeking a preliminary injunction that would block Texas from enforcing key provisions of Senate Bill 12 in some school districts. SB 12 is an expansive parental rights law passed earlier this summer. It effectively bans all programming related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It prohibits employees from discussing gender identity or sexual orientation, and prohibits student clubs based on gender identity or sexual orientation in public schools. The Genders and Sexualities Alliance Network brought the suit against the Texas Education Commissioner Mike Morath and 3 Houston area school districts in August. Local political experts are scoffing at a recent social media post made by Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, criticizing former Houston Mayor Annise Parker as Kim Ogg 2.0. Ogg is the former district attorney in the county who sparred with Hidalgo during her term. In response, Parker said she's not focused on infighting amongst Democrats. Instead, she's focused on her bid to replace Hidalgo. Mark Jones is a political science professor at Rice University and joined Houston Matters this morning.
We saw a somewhat immature social media post, and we saw it by Lina Hidalgo, and we saw a mature response by Annise Parker, which, if you're going to be successful on Commissioner's Court, having those good interpersonal relations and skills is how you get things done.
Hidalgo is not running for re-election. Parker is running against Houston City Council member Letitia Plummer on the Democratic ticket. Your check of weather: areas of fog, mist, and a chance of showers and thunderstorms before 5 p.m. today. Otherwise, it's going to be cloudy, misty, and foggy with a high near 68. Right now, 64 degrees under foggy and cloudy skies on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we are back again, the second hour of Hello Houston, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on the radio, maybe even you're listening to the podcast or the commuter car, we can reach you wherever you are.
Yes, on a drizzleable day.
A drizzleable day out there. It's not looking that great. And even though we're in the holiday spirit here in the studio, in the rest of the world, the news continues to unfold. So we're going to jump right into our headlines. Celeste, take it away.
Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo is sending a clear message to Democratic voters on her thoughts of former Mayor Annise Parker running to be the next Harris County judge. In a detailed Facebook post, Hidalgo explained why she was calling on Democratic voters to reject Parker as a candidate for the county judge position. And joining us now to discuss this and other issues is Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo. Judge Hidalgo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And if you would like to join the conversation, if you have a question or comment, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
There's a lot to talk about when it comes to budget and the county and what's going on there. Before we get into all of that, though, you did get a lot of attention yesterday with a Facebook post in which you gave your opinion of a candidate running for your replacement. Can you address that for us?
Yes, both points are connected, actually. And I'll draw that connection maybe later, but it has to do with the kind of policies that I believe are problematic that would come from somebody like her. What do I mean like
and
her?
By her, we're talking about Annise Parker.
Right.
Just to be clear.
And what I mean by that is somebody who is comfortable saying one thing and doing another. And that is what has led to the county being in a very perilous fiscal situation and I'm not exaggerating. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was share with primary voters, Democratic primary voters, 3 facts that I realized people did not know. One of the major ones that I did not know until I read, I believe it's a Texas Monthly article that said, Annise Parker on the record, she said, I voted for Ed Emmett in 2018. That's fine, okay? I was a new candidate, they're friends, fine. I mean, I think a lot of Democrats would say, why are you voting for the Republican, especially during Trump, but fine. But then it says on there, and she hasn't decided who she will vote for in 2022. So it's a 2022 article that I didn't read till after the fact. I was running against somebody who, after the election was called and the votes were counted, sued to overturn the results of the election. And we all saw that coming because at the Houston Chronicle interview, based on which they decide who to endorse, and this was filmed, so this exists on the record, she was asked, do you believe Joe Biden won the 2020 election? And she said, Joe Biden is the president. And I said, wait a minute, do you believe he won? And she would not. She just kept repeating, Joe Biden is the president. So we already knew, and so the fact that Mayor Parker would do that, to me, is baffling. It's okay, which side are you playing for? In terms of even the most basic issue of democracy. So that's one fact. I'll go quickly through the other ones. The other piece is she invited the takeover of HISD. She said, the state needs to come in and take over. And I know people feel very strongly about that among Democratic primary voters. But then the other piece is on just the consistency of what she has done. So Kim Ogg, for example, she's saying now that, Kim Ogg was her friend and that's why she supported it, but I'm disowning Kim Ogg now. Okay, that in and of itself is odd. But most importantly, she filmed a campaign video that ran supporting Kim Ogg for the Democratic primary, who we now know stands with Republicans, fundraises for Republicans, is a Republican, and at the time was pursuing several political prosecutions that cost the county millions of dollars. So, that is not a Democrat. And that we have 2 parties, great. Democracy, differences of opinion, cool. But if you're going to run as a Democrat in a Democratic primary, you need to be a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. I do want, for full disclosure, tomorrow Annise Parker will join us on the show and have her opportunity to discuss exactly what we're discussing about today. What worries me in all of this initially is we just saw what happened with our mayor losing the endorsement of Democrats behind him for future races. Is there infighting within this party that is only destructive? How does the Democratic Party plan to move forward if there's all this infighting within themselves as opposed to a united front to, I would assume, go after the Republican side?
I mean, look, obviously there's 2 perspectives on this, but my perspective is the reason so many people don't vote, the reason so many people are apathetic when it comes to politics is because they vote for something and they get something else. And that's the issue that I've had with 2 of my colleagues on the Commissioner's Court, right? They run on housing, they run on services and issues that the Democrats run on, but actually the rhetoric and the vote go to law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And so that's not our platform. That's not what they ran on. And that same with Kim Ogg. She ran on reform to the criminal justice system. Actually, she ended up making it worse. And that is what I believe Annise Parker will do, just based on her current, flip-flopping and saying, okay, so you're going to come in and then just do what you think is politically convenient at the time. It's not infighting for the sake of infighting. Let's talk about Mayor Whitmire. Let's begin with this just personality clash. I mean, you have the county judge come in, you are the mayor, the man wouldn't shake my hand. Do you know if we had a one-on-one meeting yet? No, we still have not had a one-on-one meeting. I mean, what kind of public official just refuses to have a meeting with their counterpart just because I endorsed his opponent? I mean, he started by saying I defunded the police. That's why I endorsed his opponent, because I knew he was somebody who was comfortable saying things that were not true. Just like what we're seeing with Annise Parker. And so it's that kind of, you go after the really small political things instead of serving the community. This deal with the rainbow crosswalk, they got rid of the rainbow crosswalk. So I was in touch with the chair of the Metro board, because Metro, it was a Metro street or sidewalk. So I said, okay, what happened? She said, well, it was removed. I said, well, who put the order to remove it? And she said, and I have the text message, she said, well, we had to do it because of state. She never said who. Right? So it's either her or it's the mayor. I mean, who else is it? So, that is not what you run on as a Democrat. They go to the LGBT caucus, they say they're for LGBT, and then they come and remove the rainbow crosswalk, and they don't even have the courage to say, I removed it. I don't think that serves the Democratic Party. I just don't. Whether you're progressive or more moderate, that's totally fine. I think, people frame me as extreme left. I think I take positions across the spectrum. If folks can look at my voting record, that's fine. But dishonesty and flip-flopping does not serve the party. And neither does having Republicans run as Democrats serve the party.
What does serve the party is reaching across the aisle, though. I mean, when we see Whitmire at a Crenshaw fundraiser, we're like, what's going on here? And the explanation is, we get our money from the Republican administration right now. If we can't play ball with everyone, we're going to be left out. There's some of that, I suspect, with Annise Parker reaching across with Ed Emmett. I know that they had a long history of working together. And like you say, current mayor doesn't even reach out to you. Back then, Annise Parker and Ed Emmett, they were thick. I would go to meetings and they'd both be there because they wanted, as a team, to get the city through something.
Right.
So I think that's pretty forgivable that she, knew Ed, voted for him.
Right, and that's why I said fine, that's fine.
And I think a lot of people supported Kim, and some people saw her switch, maybe because she endorsed Ted Cruz. And when I talked to her, when she was on this show, she said, I'm still a Democrat, I'm just against gun violence, and that was my real issue there.
I mean, she lost by a lot to
Kim
a newcomer in the primary. Democrats did not support Kim Ogg, but Annise Parker did. And we knew what she was doing.
For Kim?
She was on a TV ad for her. The screenshot I have, because Facebook doesn't let you post a video, but I can send it to you guys. She's on there. She says, vote for my friend Kim Ogg. Okay, that was after everything was clear about Kim Ogg, so much so that in the primary, the vast majority of Democrats voted against her, reaching across the aisle. Of course, that's why I say I don't fault her. Fine. Okay, fine. And we work across the aisle to the extent that we possibly can. During COVID, I had to. I was working with the Trump administration. It was under their administration that the vaccines were developed, that we received the vaccines. I mean, we did a lot of work together. And you do it. I mean, that's what you do. I was in touch with the head of the CDC over there. In the legislature, I've tried, but I think that's more of an excuse, right? Because considering not knowing, right, the October or September before a major election that is being watched nationwide, still you're considering whether to vote for the election denier. That's crazy. That's not working across the aisle. And same with Mayor Whitmire. I mean, I think the beef that people have is you can work across the aisle, but going to a fundraiser for the other side is not really a thing.
Let me ask one question here.
Yeah.
As someone who's not running, why do you feel like you need to speak on behalf of one candidate or speak against another?
I didn't think I should. And that's why when I announced that I wasn't running, I said, people said, well, you're going to endorse. I said, I'm not. I'm going to stay out of it. I thought more people would run. I mean, I don't know what it says about the job that we really only have two viable candidates. I don't, and trust me,
Chris
I
being
tried.
The other one, you mean?
I tried. I'm so sorry.
Chris being the other one. Chris Menifee. Who's the other?
No,
viable?
Menifee's running for Congress.
I'm sorry. Who's your other viable candidate?
Plummer. They're the two.
Letitia
We know that. Yeah, we know that. So the issue is, okay, the county budget is in shambles. I mean, really, you guys, we have a hiring freeze. We already had to cut her $1 million. The police officers, and we could have gone to the voters with this. That's what I agree on with the police union. And that same morning, I said, hey, I'm not going to go with early childhood education to the ballot. I'm going to go with your raises. I bet people are going to vote for it. So they get $100 million this year that we didn't have. Then by year 5, our annual spend on their salaries, year 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., will be $248 million more than it is today. And the legislature is only squeezing us more and more. So we cannot have another quote unquote Democrat that gets there, runs on one thing, and then gets there and is completely different than what they said. And just seeing the two-side game that she's playing tells me that. And then there is the pettiness, that same pettiness that I see with Whitmire. I mean, when I ran the first time, I met with her, I met with the people that I thought were going to run. I said, hey, I'm running, etc. I remember, reaching out over the years. I don't know why, I really don't, but there's been this consistent pettiness, sort of criticism. You can see it in all the articles, and it's like, what did I ever do to you, Right. So where does that come from? You see people like that in politics, and they don't get things done because they're more busy keeping lists of whoever, forgot to say hello or whatever.
Judge Lina Hidalgo, question for you. Are you concerned at all that calling out the potentially future judge of Harris County will affect you once you are out of the seat and you are moving on?
Absolutely. I mean, it's no secret that I want to come back and run for office again. I just didn't feel that I should have more than 2 terms. It's what I promised, etc. And yeah, I mean, if she wins, she will only be more influential. It hurts. But part of what helps me as an elected official is I really follow what I think is right. And in this case, I thought, okay, I wake up the day after the election and I find out that she's won. And now the GOP 3 or the GOP 4. Well, dang, what condition is the county budget going to be in after that? Right. What's going to happen to all the programs they ran on that they're cutting, that they're killing, that we're supposed to continue and are not continuing? And so I figured, you know what? I'm just going to share this, that when I talk to people and I tell them, they tell me I did not know. And so, I think folks should at least know. Do I think that is going to change the potential outcome of the election? I don't know, but I want to know that I did everything I could.
Do you think that looking back, now that you've been in your position for this many years, looking back when you were elected, do you think you were ready to take on what eventually ended up being multiple major national issues?
Yeah, I mean, I just came back from the dedication of a county building to Mayor Sylvester Turner, former Congressman and Mayor, and we were talking about that, right? Everything we went through, the chemical fire, COVID plus winter freeze, hurricane. Yeah. I mean, of course, I am a much stronger leader and elected official and politician now than I was then. I think I had a great team. I had great advisors. I'm a quick study, and I always really try my best to err on the side of transparency and to do what I think is best for the people. And I might get it wrong sometimes, but I'm not trying to figure out what's going to get me reelected. Quite the opposite. And so just like is happening now, because I just need to be able to feel good with my own conscience. So I think just having that is something that unfortunately I've realized too many politicians don't have. What their walk card should say is re-election, because that's really what they're running on.
And that's essentially what my follow-up was. You're talking about being transparent, keeping your word to where you said you were only going to be in office for so many terms. In some ways, would you say that you're not playing the game of politics? So does that mean you're not in the game?
Yeah, I mean, and I've seen an article, I think, when I said I'm not taking contributions from contractors. I really don't remember where it was, otherwise I'd cite it. But they were saying, she's naive. She doesn't realize she has to do this. And the fact of the matter is, people said you either have to take contractor money. Little did we know that they awarded contracts without a process. You either have to do that or you have to give jobs. One of my colleagues, Briones, she hired like the entire leadership of the Democratic clubs in Houston, Harris County. So you wonder, even though she's not a Democrat, nobody wants to say anything because they work for her, and the contracts. I didn't feel comfortable doing either. And you know what? I won a re-election where the pillow guy and the mattress guy and all these other folks were behind my opponent, Ted Cruz, $25 million, all of it. Political indictment that cost me $1 million in lawyers. I mean, all of it. And I still won. And so what I say is people would be more involved in politics and our country would be better if more people just had the courage to do what they promised to do. People see it and people vote for you. And that's just it. It's that simple. It really is.
And looking at your time in office, are you afraid your legacy might be mixed, or are you very proud of your tenure?
I mean, I have had to sort of let go of this legacy thing because when you're this prominent and you become such a target, like, of course, I don't think people are going to write, at the end of next year, like, she was wonderful, the end, right? Like, I think that it gets more clicks and to say, a lot of negative things, and that's okay. What I am concerned about are the programs we worked so hard to put in place. So this early childhood program, for example, 60,000 children and families, a positive evaluation by an independent evaluator that all the court members voted on. It's a beautiful, important program. Everybody knows. I'm talking to these businesses. They need more workers. The workers can't work because they have nowhere to put the kid or they can't afford it. I mean, all these countries, all these states, that's what they're doing. Austin, basic stuff. And these guys would rather kill it because I still don't know why. I guess they didn't want me to have a win. I don't know why. Then support the continuation of something that's really important and really important for a community, red, blue, whatever it is that you are. So that's really what gets me is already so many initiatives have been destroyed. They cut mental health services at our juvenile center, the jails for kids. I mean, that's insane. How can you cut that? They didn't give, there's $9 million they didn't give to our cybersecurity lead, who's brilliant. And we get hits like thousands and millions on a day-to-day basis. So that stuff, we built it. I don't, that's what I don't want to get taken out. And the professionalism of the department leads, we worked really hard on that, but now I'm seeing again this sort of, they have a, if you don't support me on this, then I will fire you. I mean, they're so scared. So that's more it, is sort of legacy that nobody would talk about, but that I know has put our county in a better place and is being destroyed.
I know Ernie wants to move to budget, so I just want to get clear on this. Are you supporting or are you endorsing Letitia Plummer on this or not?
So I knew that's what you're going in. I'm like, he knows the candidates. Right now, I'm not ready to say anything. Okay. I'm going to visit with her. And because frankly, I haven't done that. Like I said, I thought more people would get in. And then I realized people didn't know about Mayor Parker's decisions and background. So I have time scheduled to meet with her and then we'll see.
But there are some that assume that there was a conversation before the Facebook. Some have assumed there was conversations with Plummer before this Facebook post.
No, I mean, I met with her when she was thinking of running, just like I met with many other people. But since then, I've not spoken with her.
Okay, let's get to the budget then.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I was going to ask a question, but you seem ready to go with what you have on it.
Well, it's just, it's really hard to communicate just how irresponsible this is. So it's like, Harris County was already at $100 million deficit because over the year, counter to the recommendation and pleas of the budget director, the court voted to spend money on things that we did not have money for. So we already were going to have to squeeze $100 million out of our budget somehow. Okay, you could call that efficiencies. Never mind that we had done a lot of efficiency work, but fine. It's jolt to the system. So we're already cutting things. But then on top of that, colleagues decide that they're going to spend another $100 million. Came out of nowhere. I mean, that morning I met with the police, maybe it's the police union folks. I can't remember exactly who was in the room, but it was the leadership. And I said, guys, I will put this on the ballot. We can only put one thing on the ballot. I'll put away early childhood because this needs to happen. And I think people want this more. Great. All smiles, shake hands, goodbye, see you down there. And all of a sudden, Commissioner Ramsey makes a motion. We should just, they call it pay parity, basically pay them as much as the city is. The city's broke. I mean, they're going to have a tax increase at some point. So anyway, it happens. They make a motion. Total surprise for me and Commissioner Ellis. They pass it. No discussion, nothing. Well, then it's been maybe 3 months since then. There is now a request for an additional $4.5 million because the $100 million was not an accurate estimate. I mean, everybody knows when you launch, a construction project that it's going to be more. So who knows how much it's going to increase by? At the same meeting, this was last meeting, one of my colleagues said she wants to invest in food insecurity. The folks in the jail, the chief and others, we have got to be able to recruit more detention officers. Okay, well, how do you do that? More money. Then they said, we're going to build this new jail. It's going to have more mental health services. Is that free? That's not free. So, okay, we already need $4 million more that we don't have. And how are you going to pay for all these other things? And mind you, we're at a hiring freeze. So that means that if somebody leaves because they don't have childcare or because they find a better job or they retire, we cannot fill that position. And over time, what that means is slower response times, unemployment for some people. There's just, it's an issue for the public. And so when I said to the budget director, I said, well, how are you going to pay for this additional $4.5 million? He said two things. He said, well, we're going to take it from the budget we have budgeted to balance the pay for people across the county. Like we have a clerk one in this department, a clerk one in this department, and they don't do the same thing. So we're trying to equalize. Well, how do you know you're not going to spend all that money on that? He said, okay, well, if that's not it, then we'll extend the hiring freeze. So
you talk about
that's what it
$4
is.
million or whatever, but when you look over across what you're looking at, it's $248 million in raises we're talking about over a 5-year period.
Right.
So it's actually a hugely significant amount of money.
It's enormous, and I think it's one of those things that is like so big you can't wrap your mind around it. The bond for the Astrodome that didn't end up passing, that was, if it wasn't 105, it was 150. So that just it's an enormous amount of money, and here's the kicker is in all of this, there just continues to be this conversation about, it won't actually make a difference. We're continuing the programs. And so it's this misleading of the community. Eventually, they're going to have to raise taxes. But the question is, why are my colleagues doing that? Why? I mean, a rational actor would not do that. It's completely irresponsible. There's no two ways about it.
Well, we have to wrap, but I will leave it with this. We had a nice text. Judge Hidalgo's time will show that you did and are doing the best job possible and that you are a champion of the people.
Thank you.
So you have your fans, Judge.
Yes, thank you.
Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck with your future.
And a reminder that Annise Parker will be joining us tomorrow in the noon hour.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with AP reporter Juan Lozano about his report on the Justice Department quietly ending its monitoring of illegal dumping right here in Houston. Stay with us as News 88.7 continues.
Support comes from...
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
For the arts, hosting Art Lab, where guests can create zip tie sculptures inspired by biomorph. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. December 16th through the 20th. More at moody.rice.edu. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Houston Habitat for Humanity, where volunteering can create a home for a Houston family. Together we build joy. Learn more at houstonhabitat.org/NPR.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Justice Department has ended its monitoring of illegal dumping in parts of Houston, a move critics say signals a retreat from environmental justice efforts. That's according to a report from AP News. The decision affects predominantly Black and Latino neighborhoods that had been under federal oversight because of chronic dumping and pollution. To help us understand what's changed and what it means for residents, we're going to be joined by Juan Lozano, who covers Houston for the Associated Press. If you have any questions on this subject, please give us a call, 713-440-8870. Juan, I see you on Zoom. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here. So what is it that your reporting has uncovered? Give us the nuts and bolts of that.
Well, basically, my colleague, Jim Mushian, and I, Jim was able to confirm with several law enforcement officials that the DOJ earlier this year quietly ended this agreement that it entered into with the city to monitor illegal dumping for a 3-year period. The agreement was supposed to go through June of 2026, but they've quietly ended it, and so now there's no federal monitoring over illegal dumping in the city, particularly in these affected neighborhoods in Northeast Houston.
So the monitoring, what does that do with as far as the budget, as far as the money to clean this stuff up?
Well, the city has indicated that they were surprised by the end of the agreement, but that they are still have resources in place to address the issue. Back when the agreement was first entered, the city had additional funding for new vehicles, additional personnel, and did more pickups of trash. But residents I've talked to have said that over the past year, that sort of ended, where the city has not really answered their calls to pick up trash or not been responsive to their concerns about some of the ongoing illegal dumping in their communities.
Let me reframe that a little bit. Who does this benefit and who does this harm?
Well, I think it harms the residents of those neighborhoods would say that it harms them because they don't have the force of the federal government to help them with the ongoing monitoring of illegal dumping in the city in their communities. They have felt for many years, they say that the city has not been responsive to their calls for additional cleanup of their communities. And so they felt that, like, with the agreement that was in place, that they had the backing of the federal government to help them with this effort. But now that agreement no longer in place, they feel that they don't, that the city is not going to be responsive to their needs.
Right. But the other side of that is, then who is it benefiting? When you say when it quietly goes away, somebody wants it to go away quietly.
Well, the ending of this program is part of the Trump administration's efforts to end environmental justice programs and to end any kind of programs and cut employees that are related to environmental justice issues. And it also comes with as part of the President Trump's executive order from earlier this year that ends any diversity programs across the federal government.
You know, it's interesting, Juan, we had Houston City Council member Tarsa Jackson on Hello Houston talking about illegal dumping in Houston's 5th Ward and how it is a major concern. This must be extremely disappointing. And so what do you think needs to happen next to mitigate this issue?
Well, because I spoke with Huey German Wilson, who's the president of the Super Neighborhood in Trinity Houston Gardens, and she was one of the people who helped put the complaint that was submitted to the DOJ that resulted in this agreement. And she feels that the city needs to sort of step up as far as with their efforts to combat illegal dumping. And she says that she and other residents are still going to continue to reach out to the city to make reports into 311, reach out to their city council members try and continue to raise awareness about the problem and to make sure that the city doesn't forget that this is still an issue that still needs to be addressed.
Now, Juan, to Celeste's point, when we were talking about this earlier this month, I received a really interesting email from a guy named David Tessett who suggests that this should be farmed out to private companies, that a private company would take better care of its trucks, better maintenance for its trucks so that the trucks would last longer, and that a private company would not mess around with all of this like the government has done, and would have better routes and be much more efficient. Has anybody really considered farming this out to a private company? And does it make sense to you?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that there have been ongoing issues with the city as far. I know part of the reason why this illegal dumping continues, that sort of regular trash pickups that goes on in these communities is delayed because the city has had issues for many years as far as being able to quickly pick up trash in communities, not just there, but all around the city. And I know the city has talked about that they've had additional funding over the years to have more trucks, more employees, but that's still, residents would say that they still don't have enough resources to combat the problem. So it would be an issue of funding, and the question would be who would sort of pay for this any kind of private companies to pick up the trash.
Yeah, well, apparently it's not doing very well what we're doing. I mean, the city, and I guess it's the city totally, not the county, that's having a problem really getting this taken care of.
Yeah, because these communities are within the city limits, so it's the city's responsibility to clean up these illegal dumping sites. And the residents have told me that I've talked to that this is a problem that's gone on for years, going back to probably more than 12 years where this illegal dumping has continued, and that they say that there have been sort of ebbs and flows where it's gotten better, but then it gets worse, but that it's always been a continuous problem, and that they're hopeful that it can be resolved at some point in the future, but that it's going to take work by the city to deal with this on a consistent basis.
Well, I don't know what the solution is going to be, but if it's not being monitored, then it's not going to be fixed.
Juan, was there anything that really stuck out to you in your reporting that you felt needed to be brought to the forefront?
I think because Huey German Wilson, the head of the super neighborhoods out there, took us on a tour of some of the hotspots of these illegal dumping sites, and it was very eye-opening to see, this trash just alongside of the road. You would see mattresses, furniture, construction materials that had just been dumped there. She talked about that they found carcasses of dead animals, containers with chemicals that they're not aware of, they're not sure what it is, but that it's potentially dangerous. So that it was very eye-opening to see sort of these piles of trash that are just there, and not just in one site. There are multiple sites. You drive around to these neighborhoods, to Houston Trinity Gardens, and you drive around and you just see all these different illegal dumping sites, and it's just like, amazing that it's just there, and that that these sites just stay there for weeks or months at a time.
So is the Justice Department really just going to wipe its hands of this?
Yeah, they've ended this, and so it's as I said, this is part of the Trump administration's efforts, that their focus is no longer going to be on sort of these environmental justice initiatives, which have been part of the previous Biden administration's efforts. But so they decided this is not going to be a focus of the administration. So in doing that, a lot of these programs, these kind of agreements that deal with violations of the Title VI of the Civil Rights Agreement are not going to be enforced. So that means a lot of these communities are really just sort of going to be on their own.
So then what happens next? What do these communities do? If they've cut the funding, they've cut the program, they've quietly moved away from it, that doesn't make the trash and the problems and the dumping disappear.
The resident I spoke to said that they're still, all they can do now is they continue what they've been doing, is sort of reporting the issues to the city, talking to the mayor, city council members, other officials to try and get attention on this. And they say that they're going to continue this, and that's sort of all they can do, that they're not going to give up. They are disappointed that the agreement is over, has it been ended, but that they still have to they live in these communities and they want to make sure that the communities are clean. And so they're going to continue to bring as much attention as they can. And hopefully the city will hear their calls for help and try and clean up these sites.
Is there any way that there could be a reversal on this decision, and that the state and at the federal level they decide to say, yeah, we will come back if they've heard enough appeals from communities?
The DOJ could reverse course and decide to enter the agreement, or it could get another complaint from residents there, and then they could decide that they could enter into another agreement with the city. But that's dependent on the current administration. And from what they've indicated at this point, that does not seem likely in the near future.
Well, thanks for the reporting. If you hear anything new, let us know, because this is disturbing.
It sure is.
Well, no, we will. Thank you for your time on this.
Yes. Juan Lozano covers Houston for the Associated Press. Juan, again, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. Coming up, we're going to hear my one-on-one with NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Llamas. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Comes from Discovery Green Conservancy, presenting Houston's outdoor ice skating rink, offering a wintertime experience for all, surrounded by public art and downtown views. Open through February 16th. More at discoverygreen.com.
Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
This morning I had the opportunity to speak with NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Llamas. Tom is also the managing editor for the NBC Newscast, which is an interesting job within itself. We talk about why he's in Houston, where he thinks the news industry is going, and what it means to him to be the first Hispanic person leading a national newscast. NBC Nightly News with Tom Llamas will broadcast live tonight right here in Houston. The stop is part of the network's Reporting for America project, which takes the news on the road with stops in different cities across the country. And joining me now on Hello Houston is NBC Nightly News anchor and managing editor Tom Llamas. Tom, hello and welcome to Houston.
Hey, Celeste, thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so talk to me about the Reporting for America project and why you think it's important to take the broadcast to different cities.
I think America is such a great place, and there's so many cities in this country, and it's good for us to get out of 30 Rock and go and meet people and broadcast from these great cities for a variety of reasons. One, it's a way for us to build an even better bond with our local stations here, and so our Houston NBC station is a powerhouse affiliate for us. It's a great station with a great history not only in Texas, but really across the country. And so it's good for us to come down here and to meet with our local journalists, our reporters, our photographers, the news directors, because a lot of times when news breaks, it's first our local reporters who are giving us a heads up or the first on the scene. So it's good to kind of build that relationship because, you don't always want to be asking for things when they need help too. You want to make sure they know you as well. And so we can be there for them. And so, a lot of times we would fly up, say, the local anchors to New York to kind of do some promo shoots and talk to them and get to know them. But I really wanted to get out and meet people, meet the entire newsroom, and go into these communities and also see what's going on across America because there's a lot going on right now, right? People are facing very high prices. We have the midterm elections next year. And there's a lot going on in the world. And so it's good to hear from people across the country.
Yeah. And so, Tom, when you're here in Houston, are there any interesting stories that you all will be covering? You know, Houston is extremely diverse. And so when you look at a city this big, how do you kind of take on that project and looking at it from a national standpoint?
Yeah, I know it's tough, right? Because Houston is so massive. We're learning that right now as we're driving to our station. Yeah, no, I think, look, I think it's not just one visit. You know, we have a reporter, a correspondent who's based here for us for NBC News as well, who's got the pulse of kind of what's going on in the city. And then, it's just different things. I mean, like, you're right. There's so many different parts.
So, Tom, I habla español. You know, I grew up in South Texas on the border, and every night we would watch the evening news, and there weren't really names like Llamas sitting at the anchor desk. What does it mean to you to be the first Hispanic person to lead a network evening newscast? I mean, is that important to you to be the first?
Yeah, it's a great honor, you know, and I stand on the shoulders of a lot of great Hispanic journalists who came before me, people like Jose Diaz-Balart, who was a mentor and a friend of mine. And, yeah, you're right. Growing up, I mean, on the national stage, there were not a lot of people or a lot of names that were recognizable. I grew up in Miami, a Cuban-American community where, 90% of the population was Hispanic when I was coming up. So I got to see a lot of people that were Hispanic, that were on television, that were working at newspapers, that were on the radio. And so that had a big impression on me, and that showed me that maybe I could do it too. But I know what you mean. At the national stage, it hasn't happened. It's a huge honor. It's my family is so proud, obviously, because they came here with nothing, barely knowing the language, and now that their son is the anchor of nightly news, it's an incredible dream come true, and I know it's a big responsibility too. So I hope, in a small way, kids that like the news, that are watching the news, can look up and they can see somebody who has a name similar to them, a background similar to them, and they know they could do this one day if they want to as well.
Well, you aren't just the main news anchor, but you're also the managing editor. Can you explain to our listeners, when we're looking at national news, how do you decide, what truly deserves to be the lead story on a given night?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a couple different sort of formulas I like to follow. One, it depends kind of, is it a major story that is just broken late in the day, that people haven't been getting text alerts, they haven't been reading about it online all day on the job or on their phone, right? That's kind of number one. Number two, how many people does this impact? Is it a story of very high interest, of very high importance? Usually if something's coming out of the White House and it's a new strike in Venezuela, or it's a breakthrough in a peace talk, that's obviously going to be a lead story. But, it kind of depends on what the other news stories of the day are and what that first story is going to be. You kind of know. We've been doing it, and we have a great team at Nightly News for a very long time, and we kind of have a sense for these things. But I do like to give people things that have just happened, and I think you have to be very aggressive when it comes to breaking news.
And, NBC Nightly News is a staple when we look at trusted voices. How do you all maintain credibility across such a wide and diverse audience?
I didn't invent these tenets of journalism, but I believe in them, which, you have to be tough but fair. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're tough on Democrats, you got to be tough on the Republicans, and vice versa. And just be fair. You have to ask tough questions. You're there for a reason. You're there to really ask the questions for the millions of people that are home watching you that night. And then two, I think, you have to go in there without fear or favor. And I think if you kind of follow those rules, I think you're always going to get it right. I think we've done that at NBC News, for years and decades now. NBC is about to celebrate its 100 years being a broadcaster, which is pretty incredible. But and so I think NBC has always built that reputation. I think we still have it.
And it's interesting, Tom, that you're talking about reputation, because there is a growing trend in how people engage with news. And news avoidance is on the rise, where people are simply just burnt out, right? How do you break through to those audience members, the news consumers that are just saying, you know what, I don't even want to hear it?
I hope they give us a chance. I can't force anyone to watch the news, but I think we live in some pretty critical times right now, and I think you need to be an informed citizen, and NBC Nightly News is a great way to be informed, because we cover so much of the country, cover so much of the world. We give it to you in 30 minutes. The way I see the newscast every night is we want to inform, we want to empower with like a great investigation, and then we want to inspire at the end with the good news segments. I think it's a great 30 minutes of television, and we have a streaming show as well, Top Story, which is on our streaming network, NBC News Now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think if you're into, whatever you're into, I'm sure you're going to find something that we've covered in top story or nightly news that's going to interest you.
You're listening to Hello Houston. I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman, speaking with NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Llamas. Tom, it's interesting. NBC launched The Cost of Denial, a series that examines financial stresses for Americans. What can you tell us about that series, and what have you learned so far from it?
Yeah, it's something that I wanted to launch when I took over for Lester, and I think it's very important. When I was talking to people across the country, whether it be family or friends, people were having issues with their insurance companies, whether it's health insurance or housing insurance. I've covered a lot of storms, wildfires, and you hear stories of people getting, tossed from their insurance right before wildfire season or right before a hurricane hits, and they lose it all because so many people have all their money invested in their home. And then, with other cases, you have people who actually, it's a life or death situation. They need a procedure. They can't get it covered. They're dying. They want to try the procedure, and the back and forth with the insurance company. And so I felt it was time for us to kind of take a closer look at this. And what we've gotten is hundreds and hundreds of emails and letters of people who have cases. We're actually going to do one here in Houston. I'm going to interview a girl who is at issue right now. She's having a battle with her insurance company over a prosthetic. She wants to graduate, and she's had the same prosthetic for 6 years. And she's about to walk across the stage for her college graduation, and she's praying that she can get this new foot because she had a very bad accident and she lost most of her left foot. And her prosthetic is broken now, the one she has, and the insurance company, according to her, it's not covering it. So we're going to figure out that story. We're going to take a closer look at that. But that's just one of many stories we've covered on NBC News since we started The Cost of Denial.
And, Tom, you've mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I have to ask you, public trust in media has shifted over the years. What do you think anchors and journalists from a local market, you've worked in the local market, in the big markets, and at the network level, streaming, what do you think anchors and journalists must do to earn and keep trust?
I think you just have to keep working hard and going out and get the story and getting out of the studio and talking to people, making sure you're there. We're battling with a couple of different things. We're battling, critics of the media. We're also battling AI. But if you think about it, only reporters and local journalists and network news crews can actually go out there and originate the reporting, right? AI is not going to go out there and cover the community board hearing about your kid's high school, right? They're not going to be out there in the middle of the wildfire. It's just not going to happen. So there's a lot of new media, which is great. And I always support journalists that take any job they can, especially in a tough job market. But you can talk about the news as much as you want. Someone actually has to originate the news, and that's what we do day in, day out, and that's why I don't think we're going to go anywhere.
Tom Llamas is NBC Nightly News anchor and the managing editor. Tom, thanks so much for joining me today on Hello Houston, and welcome to Houston. I hope you enjoy your stay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You just heard a conversation between Celeste and Tom Llamas of NBC Nightly News, who will be broadcasting live tonight from right here in Houston at 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, it's nice for him to get out and about in the world. I understand what he means by always being in the anchor chair, in New York, and not really getting out there and meeting people and getting a little more hold of the tiger by the tail. So I'm glad he's here in Houston. I think he does a great job. I watch him every night.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think our news market, our news industry is changing so much, and that's something that people are, from a network standard, realizing that they need to get out into the communities, and that's exactly what they're doing, and talk to people themselves and hear what is happening, really get a pulse on what's happening within the community.
Yeah, it kind of falls in with your question you were asking about what can be done to build people's trust back into the news. And I think getting into communities, being part of who they report on, not just reporting from those ivory towers.
Well, and as we know, if it doesn't happen in New York, it's not news. They're very insulated up there. It tends to be the center of their world. It's their own city. So I think it's great that he's in Houston. And I liked your pushback a little bit about the fact that the viewers are scattered. How do you bring them back home? And, and he had a fair answer,
Yeah.
Offer something to everyone, hopefully.
Exactly. That's what we try to do on Hello Houston.
We've offered a lot today.
We have 2 hours. He only has 30 minutes and a lot of commercial breaks.
I tell you what, today was I feel like it was jam-packed.
I'll be interested to hear what Annise has to say tomorrow.
Yeah, I almost feel like tomorrow's the sequel. We have part 2 tomorrow. Annise Parker, former mayor of Houston, will be in here to address Judge Lina Hidalgo's comments.
And former comptroller also.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
for I think 10 years she ran that department, and so she knows a lot about budget. And before then, it was city council, and she's a long time, well-versed Houstonian. So.
It's funny, you're going to plug current obsessions. I think this is becoming our current obsession, watching this conversation go
As
on.
Noah Espinosa said, the tea is going to be hot. And unfortunately, we've run out of time, and that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston today. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're going to have our current obsessions, but as Ernie and Frank mentioned, former Mayor Annise Parker will be joining us tomorrow as well in the second hour of Hello Houston. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Stay dry.
Bye-bye.
Yes. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
This